of compliance that will be made part of Chester Ward Authority's permanent records. All the records needed for today have been received and filed. I would ask all of our board members to now stand for their oath of office. CWA Notary Titular Rice will give you your oath, so please raise your hand. Right hand.
That's right. I'm going to read the oath. I, can you state your name?
Noel Brandon.
Do solemnly affirm that I will support, obey, and defend the Constitution of the United States and also the Constitution of the Commonwealth. And I will discharge my duties of my office as a board member of Chester Ward Authority with fidelity.
Thank you. If you could all please sign the oath.
Yes.
And Ms. Rice will take them and she'll notarize them. That's it, sir. Okay. Thank you, Ms. Rice.
You're welcome.
Okay. Right now, we'll move on to public comments on agenda items regarding the reorganization items. Any public comments? Okay. Item number 6 is nomination of interim sir?
I didn't hear you.
Public comment on agenda items relating to the reorganization meeting.
Is that item 5, which is items on the agenda?
That'll be items on the reorganization meeting agenda, and then we'll take public comments on the regular business meeting later on.
My apologies. Thank you.
No problem. Any other public comment on reorganization? Okay. Moving on to number 6, a nomination of interim meeting chairperson to conduct election of board chairperson. Once again, if the board would like, I can administratively take over as interim meeting chair to handle the election of board chair. Okay. So I'd like to open nominations for board chairperson.
I nominate Noel Brandon as chair.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any other nominations for board chair? Hearing none, I close nominations. We have a nomination for board chairperson of Noel Brandon. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, congratulations, Mr. Brandon. Now, turn the meeting over to you, Mr. Chairman.
Do I have to actually hit this?
Sure. Mr. Chairman, I just asked that we also open comment for public comment on the agenda items for the business meeting.
Sure. Any public comments?
From here, okay? Can I speak from here, or you'll be?
Is that okay?
Where would you like me to?
No,
Over
extend
here is
it.
okay? Sure.
Since you'll have to get your good self, right?
And this is for board agenda items.
For board agenda?
Yes.
Good afternoon. Sorry for the misfire there a moment ago. My name is Mark Luke. I want to first congratulate you all and wish you and your families well for happy and healthy holiday season. My comments apply to items 13, what was 13B, C, and D. I think they might have been renumbered here a moment ago. But more specifically, I would like details on what is included in the operations and maintenance budget for the $46.7 million, which equates to about $1,000 or more per customer. What is included in that? I'd like to know the same thing on capital. What is included in the capital budget? It's about $24.9 million. And if there's any information at all on this that's available today and as part of this discussion, that's great, but I didn't see it in the packet, so I was just curious. Now, in the past, I was before this board and I requested similar information. And in the past, I I was asked to write a letter to request the information, and I did that on January 27th of this year, a letter that went to Chairman Leitzel. And in that, I summarize and say, I'm not aware that there's been public meeting to discuss the rate case. I expected additional information might be available and would like to get that information. I submitted that information, and shortly thereafter, I received a letter through our legal counsel from Conrad O'Brien dated January 31st, which essentially said, and I'm paraphrasing the letter, Aqua's in litigation with CWA over rates. In light of the ongoing litigation instituted by Aqua against CWA, CWA is directing its response through counsel. The rates that CWA is implementing are entirely appropriate under the law, as was the process for adopting them. My curiosity is, what's included? I just was looking for details of so much for fuel, so much for transportation, so much for capital, so much for pipe. I would think any customer like me would have a genuine curiosity of what is included in the budget. I was simply asking for that. I got a letter that said thank you, but no thank you because we're in litigation. I was just looking for public information and information that the board used to approve its budget. So that concludes my comments. Thank you for your time, and again, I wish you well. Happy holidays.
Thank you, Mr. Luca. Michael, should I continue with the minutes or stay with the election of officers?
I think that since we've heard public comment, you can move on to nomination and elections of board officers, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, we'll do that then. I'd like to entertain nominations for the vice chairperson.
I move to nominate Dr. Patricia West, Vice Chair.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Roll call.
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Brandon.
Yes.
Mr. Herford.
Yes.
Dr. Lewis West.
Yes.
Mrs. Mahalik.
Yes.
Mr. Rivera.
Yes.
Mr. Shelton.
Yes.
Mrs. Smith.
Yes.
Mr. Washburger.
Yes.
Mrs. Whitaker.
Yes.
Congratulations, Dr. Lewis West.
Let's move on to the nomination of secretary. Do we have a nomination?
I'd like to nominate Mr. Rivera.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you. The motion has been made and seconded. Mr. D'Agostino, can you do the roll call, please?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Brandon.
Yes.
Mr. Herford.
Yes.
Dr. Lewis West.
Yes.
Mrs. Mahalik.
Yes.
Mr. Rivera.
Yes.
Mr. Shelton.
Yes.
Mrs. Smith.
Yes.
Mr. Washburger.
Yes.
Mrs. Whitaker.
Yes.
Congratulations, Mr. Rivera.
Is this where I make my acceptance speech?
I'd like to move on to the nomination of treasurer. Do we have a nomination?
I would like to nominate Olivia Smith to be our treasurer.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Haven't heard that. Mr. D'Agostino, can you do the roll call?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Brandon.
Yes.
Mr. Herford.
Yes.
Dr. Lewis West.
Yes.
Mrs. Mahalik. Mr. Rivera.
Yes.
Mr. Shelton.
Yes.
Mrs. Smith.
Yes.
Mr. Washburger.
Yes.
Mrs. Whitaker.
Yes.
Congratulations, Mrs. Smith.
Well, I just want to say, since Mr. Rivera is not going to do this speech, I just want to say that I believe that we're all looking forward to this new term. We had a chance earlier in the executive meeting to get introduced. It's been an honor serving on this board. We have a fantastic authority that serves our ratepayers with distinction. The previous board did a phenomenal job as well, and hopefully at some point in the future I'll be able to share some of those accomplishments. But it's with great pleasure that all of us, I believe, are assuming this board position. So thank you for your vote of confidence. Moving on, can we have a motion to approve the previous meeting's minutes?
I'll make the motion.
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Ayes have it. Do we have any action items, Mr. Solicitor, from our executive session?
No, Mr. Chairman, and congratulations on your appointment there. Can I proceed to item 12?
You sure can.
There was an executive session prior to today's meeting for 2 hours and maybe five minutes. We talked about the various litigation items that the authority is involved in. We had an information session on water quality and source water protection. But I don't have any action items from that. Just a brief report that there was a proceeding in bankruptcy court today. There were several items before the bankruptcy judge. Some of the items concerned who was eligible to participate in the mediation and what would be the parameters there. Frankly, we expected a much longer hearing. The judge had a hearing for maybe an hour and simply indicated that she was appointing, I believe, a senior bankruptcy judge retired from Wilmington, and that judge will make the determination as to who participates and who doesn't. So I'll have more to report on that in both the executive sessions and at that regular meeting. But at present, the Pennsylvania Supreme Court is not moving forward on an oral argument on that issue. So that's it for today.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Solicitor. Moving on to item 13, Chief Financial Officer's Report. Aside from the items listed, is there anything that our CFO would like to present?
Sure. Good afternoon for everybody new. My name is Agnes Wettenberg. I serve as a CFO. I prepare monthly reports for your review. They usually include standard information on contract information, cash flow, any funds in the reserve, income statement, and balance sheet. You will see that we ask every month for the board to ratify the list of expenditures from the previous month, and that's item 13A we're asking.
Okay, can we make that motion to ratify the list of expenditures paid and wires drawn?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Mr. D'Agostino?
Mr. Brandon.
Yes.
Mr. Herford.
Yes.
Dr. Lewis West.
Yes.
Mrs. Mahalik.
Yes.
Mr. Rivera.
Yes.
Mr. Shelton.
Yes.
Mrs. Smith.
Yes.
Mr. Washburger.
Yes.
Mrs. Whitaker.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Mr. Solicitor, can we take item B and C as a separate motion?
I would do each one of the next three as separate motion.
Okay, can we please get a motion for item 13B?
I'll make the motion. I was giving a new person a chance.
They look at the budget.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay. Mr. Brandon.
Yes.
Mr. Herford.
Yes.
Dr. Lewis West.
Yes.
Mrs. Mahalik.
Yes.
Mr. Rivera.
Yes.
Mr. Shelton.
Yes.
Mrs. Smith.
Yes.
Mr. Washburger.
Yes.
Mrs. Whitaker.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, moving on to item C, request to approve the final 2023 capital improvement budget of $24,979,000. Do we have a motion or any questions?
Can I ask one question?
Sure.
I don't know if it's you, Madam CFO. Can you clarify the difference between the total, roughly $24.9 million on the agenda and the difference in the total that we received in our board packets? I have two different numbers.
Oh, you do?
Yes.
What page are you referring to?
There's not really a page.
Well,
It's,
I will say that
In the back.
25.4 million is
okay.
the current budget. I'm not sure what happened.
Okay, so it's not the 24.979.
Yes.
It's 25.478 that I think I asked a few questions on during executive session. Okay.
What's the correct number?
25.478.839. And I noticed the same with the operating budget as well. Slight difference.
Any other questions? Okay, with the clarification that the number has changed to $25,478,839. Is everybody comfortable with moving ahead with the vote? Mr. D'Agostino?
We have a motion and a
I'm sorry, I thought we had that.
I'll make a motion.
Okay. Do we have a second?
Second.
Mr. Brandon?
Yes.
Mr. Herford?
Yes.
Dr. Lewis West?
Yes.
Mrs. Mahalik?
Yes.
Mr. Rivera?
Yes.
Mr. Shelton?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Washburger?
Yes.
Mrs. Whitaker?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, thank you. Moving
I
on.
have a question,
Sure.
just because I was brought up that for the item 13B, you saying that 46 is different also.
Yeah,
So do we
I'm
need to
seeing,
redo
it's,
that motion to
yeah, I think we should do it again. It's
Okay.
just off by about $2,000.
Right.
What is the correct number?
46,780,000.
Okay, we will do the motion for item 13B, request to approve the final 2023 O&M budget. The correct number is $46,780,000. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
We'll do the roll call again. Mr. D'Agostino?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Brandon?
Yes.
Mr. Herford?
Yes.
Dr. Lewis West?
Yes.
Mrs. Mahalik?
Yes.
Mr. Rivera?
Yes.
Mr. Shelton?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Washburger?
Yes.
Mrs. Whitaker?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Moving on to 13D, are there any questions on that item? That's a 5% rate increase. These and these.
I'd just like to confirm out loud that this will just be applicable for the 2023 year. There will be no additional increases during that time.
Yeah, this particular motion is for the 2020, what will occur in January.
Right.
But it's not a commitment to answer Mr. Holland's questions that we won't raise.
Yeah,
I understand that there's no current intention to do that.
Right.
We can't predict the future. So.
Correct.
And this raise was because of the fact that the cost of products that we have incurred in this current year to balance the budget for the upcoming year.
That's correct.
And just for clarity, someone said January 1st, but this takes effect February 1st.
February 1st. Agnes, can you confirm
The
that?
rate sheet has a date of February 1st because
Okay.
we need to give, there's some customers we have to give advance notice
Okay.
before we can make any changes.
Thank you.
With the clarifications that have been provided, can we entertain a motion?
So moved.
Okay. We have a second?
Second.
Mr. Brandon?
Yes.
Mr. Herford?
Yes.
Dr. Lewis West?
Yes.
Mrs. Mahalik?
Yes.
Mr. Rivera?
Yes.
Mr. Shelton?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Washburger?
Yes.
Mrs. Whitaker?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Moving on to the Director of Engineering report. Do you have anything?
Just introduce myself, Jeff Russo, Director of Engineering. Wanted to congratulate Mr. Brandon on your appointment to the chair, and for the new board members, I look forward to working with you over the coming years. As far as any details, if you have any questions on any of the things presented, please let me know. Here to help.
Mr. Solicitor, can we do those in bulk, or should
Yes.
we go through them one
Our
at a time?
typical practice is to do them in a bulk. They're all items that were bid with the exception of D and E. And D is an application for funds, and P is a PennDOT required resolution.
Okay, so are there any questions on items 14A through E? Seeing no questions, can we have a motion, please? Do you have a second? Next one.
Mr. Brandon.
Yes.
Mr. Herford.
Yes.
Dr. Lewis West.
Yes.
Mrs. Mahalik.
Yes.
Mr. Rivera.
Yes.
Mr. Shelton.
Yes.
Mrs. Smith.
Yes.
Mr. Washburger.
Yes.
Mrs. Whitaker.
Yes.
Motion is carried.
Thank you. Moving on to item 15 on the agenda. Mr. Krupiak, do you have anything you'd like to say prior to entertaining a motion?
I have these two items and nothing further, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Mr. Solicitor, we should do these one at a time?
I would.
Okay. I'd like to entertain a motion for item 15A, motion to approve the 2023 monthly board meeting dates.
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Mr. Brandon.
Yes.
Mr. Herford.
Yes.
Dr. Lewis West.
Yes.
Mrs. Mahalik.
Yes.
Mr. Rivera.
Yes.
Mr. Shelton.
Yes.
Mrs. Smith.
Yes.
Mr. Washburger.
Yes.
Mrs. Whitaker.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to the next one, 15B, which is a motion to approve the payment to the Water Research Foundation for 2023 in the amount of $26,658. Before I continue, seeing that we've had some number of issues on this agenda, is that number the number that we should be voting on, Mr. Executive Manager? Okay, any questions?
Yeah, that's just for clarification. It says to approve payment. This payment, in its description, is recommended to be a grant request. So this is a grant request that they're asking, or is it a membership fee?
Membership fee.
The grant request was from the Director of Engineering, I believe.
I recommend the board approve the grant request to support the continued research of WRF that came from the plant operations. We're not giving them a grant, we're paying for a membership fee. Right?
Yeah. I think it's just, we're paying a fee, but it's essentially a grant. Is that what you're,
I think the plant operator is asking you to grant him permission or give him.
Oh, so it's not- it's not grant.
Fee.
Okay, so it's not a grant like you give grants, it's a grant or a request.
Well, he wants a grant from you, but I mean, that basically your task today is to decide whether or not this authority should pay a membership fee in Water
Okay.
Research Foundation for Glen Township.
All right, so the word grant is really,
He used
it's
that.
not, it's not the way we look at
a
it.
request for someone
It's a
else.
request.
to pay.
Okay.
He got you.
Okay.
Asking you to pay that. Yeah.
Okay, so as you said, approve the board to request, okay. It's, the word grant just thrown in. That's fine. So we're paying for a membership fee.
Yes.
That's what it is. Yeah, that's our
Okay.
membership fee. So I'm good.
with that additional understanding?
That understanding is clear, but if you're giving me a grant, then I'm giving it to you.
Yeah, Can we have a motion to approve that
Doing what you're
payment?
gonna do with it for
So
you
moved.
versus us
Second.
benefiting from what we need to do first.
Second.
Mr. Brandon.
Yes.
Mr. Herford.
Yes.
Dr. Lewis West.
Yes.
Mrs. Mahalik.
Yes.
Mr. Rivera.
Yes.
Mr. Shelton.
Yes.
Mrs. Smith.
Yes.
Mr. Washburger.
Yes.
Mrs. Whitaker.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Do we have any old business?
Yeah, the only business is the future location of the board meetings. At the request of Mrs. Smith, I've been in dialogue with both Newman University and Concord Township, so I think we'll have that worked out prior to the next meeting, and then we'll advertise.
Okay.
So in the meantime, we're gonna be here next month. Will you be able
If
to-
the other two don't work, that's up to you, but that's certainly fine.
Are you looking to alternate or pick one of those two?
That's up to you.
Been coming to Concord Township for quite a while, so we've taken a ride. Come and visit us on the East Coast.
And you'll be close to the river.
The food better be worth it.
At Newman, the food is worth it. Newman
You've
is
been in
yum
the with
yum.
us? You know that never happened?
I don't remember it standing out in my mind.
I don't think he was
He
there.
wasn't there. Oh, okay.
You know what I'm saying? It's a cafeteria, right?
Yeah. Were you there?
He's hard at it.
Okay, all right, seeing no old business, any new business, item 17?
Have we ever gone to the West Coast, by the way? I'm just wondering.
In Concord on the West Coast?
Hardly. That's on the Mississippi.
Oh, it's not? Okay, that's like Mississippi.
Do we have any public comment or other matters at this time?
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
That's
That's
all
really
right.
good.
Please,
Go right
you can
ahead.
Go ahead, ladies first.
Hi, everyone. My name is Catherine Miller. I'm a ratepayer. I live in Oxford Borough. And I come here on behalf of the ratepayers. I head up the community and ratepayer outreach effort, Save CWA. And I had a couple ratepayers that were supposed to come today, but I think the weather, and I had one that was ill, so I'm actually going to read her comment. This is from Kristen Webb of Concord Township. Thank you for the service you will perform being newly selected to the CWA Board. I hope each of the new members will serve with the same authentic integrity that we, the ratepayers, have appreciated over the past decade from the former diverse and talented board members. As the new board, I hope you will stay the course and continue on our behalf to save CWA, our precious source of well-managed, fresh, potable water. I have been advocating for Chester Water Authority to maintain this fine service to us ratepayers since 2018, when I first learned of the proposed hostile takeover by Aqua, aka Essential Utilities. I've canvassed many ratepayers who also agree that CWA is an excellent manager for our water source. Please come together to serve us, the ratepayers, and protect CWA from being stolen from us. Kristen Webb, Concord Township. I also have a set of comments. At the last board meeting, I gave the old board about 21 pages of ratepayer comments. Since that meeting, there's been more people to submit, so I'll pass these out today. I'll just read a couple of you for right now. The Kratz family from New Garden. Keep up the fight. CWA needs to be independent. The sewer bills are already out of control. Let this not happen to our water supply. Marlene Calhoun from Chester City. Thank you for saving CWA. The Lowe family from Garnet Valley. Thank you to all the board members for providing quality water at reasonable prices and helping to retain CWA as a public entity that is well run and respected. And last one I'll read. William and Jerry Ragmanano from Londonderry Township. Thank you so much for the excellent job you have done for all the people and for protecting the water in the open land. On behalf of all the wildlife who cannot say thank you, we say it for them. So I'll give all the board members copies of that. Also, I don't know if you were looked into the at the Inquirer this morning. There was an excellent op-ed that I have a copy for everyone. The editorial board came out against selling Chester Water Authority to alleviate Chester's woes. The title says, despite budget deficits and bankruptcy, Chester should not sell off its water system. I'll just read you one of the paragraphs here. One of Chester's most valuable assets is its water department. Private water companies have been snapping up public water and sewer utilities thanks to a misguided 2016 state law that opened the door for the sale to for-profit companies. Chester City Council voted last year to sell Chester Water Authority to Aqua Pennsylvania for $410 million, but the sale has been tangled up in litigation. Despite Chester's pressing financial troubles, selling the water utility would be a giant mistake. Recent sales in other towns have led to massive increases in consumer water bills of 50% or more. With a poverty rate of 36%, many Chester residents would struggle to pay higher water bills. They are not alone. The sale of Chester Water Authority would impact 200,000 people across 37 municipalities in Delaware and Chester counties. This is just one example of how Chester's financial troubles can directly affect the region. The last sentence in this op-ed was, Chester's survival should not begin with the fire sale of its water utility. Chester should build on its assets and not sell them off. So I have copies of all this for the board. And the other article that they referred to in that about the repealing of Act 12, I have copies of all that for you guys as well. It's time to repeal the PA law that allows the sale of municipal water systems. And the last sentence of that article, I'll just read in the comment. Selling off publicly owned water and sewer assets is not the answer. Clean, safe, and affordable water should not be left to the free market. Thank you very much for your time, and welcome to the board.
Thank you very much for your comment. Do we have any other?
Good afternoon again, Mark Luca, President of Aqua, Pennsylvania. So one question which was on the agenda, but I apologize for the timing, because I didn't know it was going to be said. I understood that there was water quality and source water protection discussed in executive session. I'm not an attorney, but I do not know why those topics would be part of executive session. The questions that surrounded this room, this table just a few minutes ago about the budget, I get it, things happen. It happens all the time. But if we had that packet, we would know where the differences were. We know there are differences, you just voted on it. Did you take it out of a particular project? Was it out of labor? Where did it come from? The lack of public information from this public board is just unbelievable to me. I'm not around many boards like you are, perhaps, but I am around some, and it is really unbelievable to see the lack of information and the lack of desire to share that information because of the letter I received earlier from an attorney. We are a ratepayer. We ask for information, which we know you have. It should be public. It's public in any other place, and we shouldn't have to jump through hoops to request it and get it. That wasn't my comment. My comment was I recently attended a public meeting, and a woman stood up in public. I think you were there, Mr. Rivera. I'm not sure, though. And she started to complain about her water quality. Now, we were in a sewer meeting, but this woman complained about her drinking water quality. And in her complaint, which she made in public at the microphone, she said that 2 CWA employees told her that there was work that was needed at the plant. I think she said there were filters. Again, I don't remember if you were there or not. There was work that was necessary at the plant. The filter needed repair, and it wasn't done. Now, she thought she was addressing those comments to me. I was a little bit surprised because we were there for sewer discussions, and I never really addressed it to her, but it is a matter of public record. I'd like to know, as a customer, are any of the capital improvements that you're doing going to fix the problem that this woman observed? It would be grateful, I would be grateful, if that information could be readily available to all your customers to know what it is that you're planning on doing. And one last question. You're very kind to video every meeting. I have no idea where those videos are stored. This is a public meeting. I imagine if I ask for it, I'll get another letter from an attorney that says you can't have it because of some reason that cost you $2,000 or $3,000 to write, and me the same amount of money to review and understand. This should be public information. It should be readily available on your website. Like so many other bits of information, there's nothing there about these meetings other than a 2-page agenda, and I simply do not understand it. I submit my comments respectfully. Welcome again. Happy holidays to you and your family. I wish you all well and healthy season. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to take the opportunity to give Mr. Luca a copy of a case that he can discuss with his lawyer that points out how boards gather information, do their fact-finding, and make decisions. It distinguishes between your ability as a board to ask questions during your fact-finding in private as opposed from an actual executive session. What I usually say when I talk about those things, we had an executive session and an information session. I'm happy to correct that today if I didn't say it, but the case is Smith versus the Township of Richmond, Commonwealth Court case from 2012, and the court gives a good explanation of how boards make decisions, what has to be public, what doesn't. But they say it's perfectly lawful and allowable and hard to believe how you could make decisions without being able to do fact-finding, asking questions in private. What you can't do in private, except for certain things, is deliberate. That didn't happen today. But we're free to have those conversations, and you're free to ask questions going forward. So that is not technically an executive session matter. That was an information session matter. But if we could pass this down to Mr. Luca.
What's the site on that, Frank? What's the site?
I've got copies for everybody. I thought I was going to have time to talk about it today, but we didn't.
But don't you think people want to know about your source water quality?
This is not a question and answer session. It's public comment. It says that on number 5. It says that on number 18 too. So it's public comment. We're in litigation with Mr. Luca. His company has us involved in almost 20, I think it's 28, 24 or 28 separate litigation actions because they want to take us over. We're just better off in the ratepayers' interest not to engage in this kind of dialogue now. You know, this isn't like what C-SPAN used to show on Sunday nights where the members of the British Parliament would stand for an interrogation. You don't have to do that. The Sunshine Act just says it's a public comment session. He can come and he can make comments and we can listen and we can respond to them. The reason that we write to his attorney is because since he has an attorney, he's got a very capable counsel, you know, I'm not allowed to talk to him directly. On any issue that he raises that is encompassed by what we're in litigation about, we've got to communicate with his lawyer. We will do that here too. I mean, we're in 28 cases. You know, we're just trying to do it and follow the requirements of the law. To the extent that he's asked for public information, we'll get that. To the extent that he's not entitled to it, he won't. But we will respond, and we respond in writing, so there's public record of it.
Okay, well, thank you for your advice and counsel, Mr. Solicitor. Is there any more public comment? Okay, seeing none, I'd like to entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
You have a second? The meeting is adjourned. Thank you for your attendance.